Hey guys, my name's Michelle, and today we're going to be practicing UX design. I'd like to think that real design doesn't actually happen in the design tool. It happens in the decisions that we're making with our teams as we go through the design process. So let's say that you're designing an app that helps people customize cakes. So the first thing is to figure out your target audience. Let's say that our customers are people who are celebrating big events like weddings or baby showers, and that they're pretty comfortable doling out $100 for a large custom cake. What's the goal of the app? Let people customize their cake. Order the cake and let them maybe track the delivery. Once you figure out the goal, you want to do some user research. Ask people what they'd want to customize on their cakes, how much they'd be willing to pay, what flavors they want in their cakes, what kinds of frosting they want. It's always really helpful to do an audit of your competitors. So there's a lot of places that are already doing this. What are other bakeries offering? What are local companies offering? Gather team members for a brainstorming session, for questions that you have on the UX, whether that's your PM or your engineers. These brainstorming sessions are actually great for figuring out which parts of the product are still kind of uncertain to the team. What kind of decisions do you need to make before you're able to actually go forward and do design work? I would say that for this particular app, the uncertain part is actually the customization of the cake part. Ordering the cake and then tracking the delivery, those are things that other apps have already designed pretty successfully. So there's a precedent for what that user flow looks like. All right, so now we've identified the big opportunity here, which is really in the cake customization itself. So when you've gotten to this phase, sometimes it can be really good to create sort of like a spectrum for yourself when it comes to figuring out what your approach is going to be. Let's say that on one end of the spectrum, you have cakes that are not very customizable. Essentially, you're only letting people customize the text or the message. The next level of customizable cakes might be cakes where you let people customize the size or the flavor, but they can't make it super custom. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have those cakes where the customer can do whatever they want and they can request anything. All right, so now you've laid out a couple of different approaches and you want to really figure out what's the right approach. So let's say that you find out through your user research that people don't necessarily have a perfect idea of what they want, but if you give them guardrails, they can figure it out. We're going to give people templates to work with. Next, a really important step is identifying the critical user journeys. So this might look like Joanna wants to find a wedding cake for her 100-person wedding, and she wants it to be tiered, and she wants it to be chocolate, and she wants white icing on top. So then in that case, we need a user flow that's going to allow people to choose an occasion, select a type of cake, maybe select the number of people that this cake is going to feed. For starters, let's just pick 3 options. One idea is that the home screen of this app is sort of like an Airbnb style form field where you can fill out the occasion, the type of cake. Let's say another option is letting people browse by occasion first. You let people browse by birthday, wedding, baby shower. Another idea might be just putting a Start Now button on the home screen, and along with it have a bunch of images of cakes that people have already customized, so they kind of get an idea of the types of things that you can create. So before you just dive in and start creating high fidelity mocks, how do you evaluate these options? Well, something that I've always found really helpful is just to list out the pros and cons of each option. So for example, the first Airbnb style where you have the multiple form fields. The pro is that maybe you can get to your dream cake faster, but the con is that maybe you just don't know what the cake looks like if you select those options. For the one that lets people browse by occasion, the pro is that people are really use case driven. So, it's likely that they'll be thinking about the event, but a con might be they don't know the options up front. Having a Start Now button and then displaying a whole bunch of cakes that people have already made. The pro is that gives people an idea of what to expect. A con might be asking people to click once before they can actually get going with what they're here to do. Let's say that we pick the browse by occasion method. There's going to be many ways to also design this UI once you figure that out. So how do you go about evaluating further, right? At this stage, iterate. Make at least 6-7 iterations of this design before you settle. You want to think of every single way that people can get from A to B to C. Are you going to display these options with a slider, with buttons, with a carousel, as a list? Now that you've gotten to all of your iterations, it's a good time to prototype them. You can use Principle, Protopie, Envision. There's plenty of tools out there. It can be really, really useful to ask people who are not directly on your team, such as somebody who's maybe in sales or marketing. If you're working with a user researcher, or if you're not, it's a really good opportunity to do some user testing. You can use surveys. You can ask people out on the street. You can bring people into the lab. You can use focus groups. I'm sure that by the end, we're going to end up with a really awesome app that lets you customize the best cake ever. So this is a super brief UX practice session. I hope you found it helpful. If there's other types of content that you want to see, please let me know. I'll catch you all next time.